That man don't want you. He wants your kids. Some of y'all women think that man love you, he taking care of you, he treating you right. That man would do anything to get close to your kids. Some of these men going down your profile, looking at how many kids you got. You got a daughter, got a son, got a little baby. You would be so in love with that man you won't believe your kids no more. He'll have you turn against your own kids. Your daughter can say, Mommy, touch me. The first thing you say is, you don't want me to have nobody. Your son can say, Mama, he looking at me the wrong way. You just want me to be with your daddy. I don't want your dad no more. I got me a good man. So get out my face. You don't want me to be happy. Nobody want me to be happy. Why you think some of these kids are running away from home? And then we say these kids are hard-headed. They don't respect the mama that don't protect them. They don't respect the mama that believe a stranger over them. How in the hell you gonna believe somebody over your own kids, the one you birthed in this world? You better fix your mind before you lose everything you got.
Hey ladies, welcome back. This is your host Nava. Please hit that subscribe button on your way in, and I'm not going to do too much chatting. I'm just going to jump right into this video because I'm really pissed off right now. Earlier today I posted a video entitled Holding Women Accountable. And one of my subbies got in the comments and told me that the video didn't have sound on some parts, so I had to delete it. So here I am again, reposting the video. It was about 45 or 40 minutes long. And I listened to the video before I posted it to make sure it was okay, and all of the sound was there. That's why I think this has been done purposely, because we have a lot of predators. The video was actually about Child SA and holding women accountable, because a lot of women do know that this is going on in their houses. A lot of women don't believe it, specifically girls. Girl Child SA. That's what this video is about. A lot of women don't believe their daughters when they come to them and tell them, you know, my brother or my cousin or my dad or your boyfriend or husband touched me and has been touching me. A lot of women want to fight their daughters. Some women have kicked their daughters out and didn't believe them. You know, all kind of things are happening to these girls. And so this video is specifically about, you know, the signs that you need to look out for when you're trying to date. I actually don't think women should be dating at this point. I really don't, especially if you have girls that are young in your house, because women are so caught up on relationships and wanting to be with a man that they're just so desperate for a man that they're willing to just sacrifice their daughters. And I just don't think women should be dating right now, but I don't want to ramble on too much. I'm going to get into the videos, and I might come in and out with my commentary after this.
Here's the story. At 3 years old, you wake up in the middle of the night to your mother holding a knife over your head. She's later diagnosed with bipolar disorder. You're put into foster care, and by 5 years old, your father comes to adopt you. But what was once the light at the end of a tunnel quickly turns into the nightmare of your life. Trapping Anonymous.
My father would blindfold me, and he would make me give him oral sex. He would ejaculate in my mouth. The most disgusting thing I ever went through, ever taste. I'm young. I don't know what the fuck is going on. You understand what I'm saying? I'm confused. Why is this happening to me? Why is my dad doing this to me?
There is 4 signs your child is being essayed that you might be overlooking by somebody that has been essayed from the time they were about 6, 7, 8 years old to about 12. I don't really remember the exact age I was when it actually started, but that's not the point. I just want you to know the 4 signs that you need to look out for. Sign number 1, you notice the adults around your children, their behaviors have changed. And I'm gonna explain what I mean by this. When my mother's first husband did what he did to me, before he actually did it, he was very strict, he was very mean, and he was very nasty towards me. After he did what he did, he became extremely nice to me. For example, he didn't allow me to watch TV. Out of nowhere, he was asking me, hey, do you want to watch TV? Do you want the remote? He was even asking me, do I want candy? Do I want ice cream? He was just being extremely nice to me. And this was a big red flag. At least it should have been when it came to the other adults around me. Because like I said, he was very strict. He was very nasty. He was very mean to me. And out of nowhere, he was being extremely nice to me. But it was because he didn't want me to tell anybody what he had tried to do to me. Sign number 2, your child has no control over their bladder. So when this was happening to me, I remember when my mom would beat me. And I want to make it clear that I don't feel like she was beating me to be abusive. But when she was beating me and she was disciplining me, basically, like if I did something she felt was wrong, she would hit me with a belt or she would hit me with a brush. And every time she hit me, I would literally pee on myself. Another thing I was doing was I was peeing the bed. And I was doing it at an age where I shouldn't have been doing it. Now, as an adult, I understand that that is one of the signs that a child is being touched. Because basically, I didn't have control of my bladder. So anytime I felt any form of anxiety or stress on my body, I did not have control over my bladder. Sign number 3, your child is extremely quiet. When I was a kid, I was very quiet. I didn't talk and I was extremely timid. And the adults around me mistake this as me being a good kid. I would hear things like, she's so quiet, she doesn't talk, she doesn't cause any trouble, she's a good girl, she's a good kid. But really, I was quiet and I was timid because of what was happening to me. And I was scared to tell them what was actually happening. Number 4, unexplained bleeding. So I'm going to tell you about an incident that happened to me. One time when my cousin was doing what he was doing to me, I had went to the bathroom. And when I went to the bathroom, I saw that I was bleeding. And I was wiping myself. And my aunt walked in on me and said, oh my God, you're bleeding. And I remember she started to examine me. And she asked me, did anybody touch you? That was literally the first thing that came out of her mouth. And there's a reason why I'm saying this. It's important. So I replied and I said no. And the reason why I said no was because my cousin who was doing it to me told me, if you tell anybody, we're both gonna get beatings. I remember, like I told you, when I used to get beatings, I would always pee on myself. I would be very embarrassed by it. Plus, as a kid, who wants to get a beating? So when she asked me, I said no, nobody's touching me. And I do remember she asked me again and I said no. And then I remember she just told me to take a bath and that was it. Years later, when I told my mother what happened to me and she confronted my aunt claimed she thought I was having my period. Now remember what I told you, the first thing she asked me is, anybody touching you? And now as a 34-year-old adult who is an aunt to my nieces and nephews, if I were to see one of my nieces bleeding at such a young age, the first thing I would do is I would tell my brother or sister, hey, they're bleeding and, it's kind of weird. Or if I thought my niece was having her period, I would have offered her a pad. And like I said, I would have said something to her parent. Now remember, my aunt didn't say anything to my mom. It was me telling her what happened to me years later when I was I think I was like 14 when I finally told her, right? Years later, my mother confronted my aunt. And my aunt said, I thought she was having her period. But if you thought I was having my period, why didn't you offer me a pad? And why did you make me take a bath? I believe she knew what was happening to me because it was happening to me and she was in the next room. And it was her son doing it to me, and I felt she wanted to protect her child. Either way, if your child is very young and they're bleeding, especially if she's a girl, do not naturally assume that she's having her period look deeper into
This
it.
pedophile committed a crime so disturbing that a petition was created that asked the government to publicly hang him. And the petition gathered thousands of signatures. This is 33-year-old Benjamin Taylor from West Virginia. And in 2016, he would commit one of the most sickening crimes I've ever read about. Back in 2016, Benjamin was living with his girlfriend, a woman named Amanda Adkins. At the time, Amanda had recently given birth only 9 months ago to her baby daughter, Emily. Emily was a beautiful young girl. And I want to warn you all right now, the details that we're about to discuss are some of the most disturbing I've ever covered. So in October of 2016, Benjamin had only been living with his girlfriend Amanda for about a month. And on the morning of Emily's death at around 4:30 a.m., Amanda woke up and went downstairs to search for her baby. When she went downstairs, she saw Benjamin Taylor with his pants unzipped sitting in the dark. Amanda then noticed that her 9-month-old daughter's limp body was lying nearby on a pile of sheets and laundry. Amanda screamed at Benjamin and grabbed her daughter's lifeless body, but he remained silent and stared at the ground. The details of what had just happened down there are disturbing. Local authorities would call this the worst assault that they had seen in decades. You see, Benjamin and Emily were covered in the infant's blood. After the child's body was examined, the authorities were able to determine that she had been assaulted by an adult male multiple times. The infant child was also bleeding extensively and had suffered head trauma. Emily had a fractured skull and brain hemorrhaging. Authorities believe that Emily may have been shaken violently, or even thrown to the ground or slammed against a hard object. When police arrived at the scene, Benjamin Taylor was observed trying to wipe something off of his groin. That was eventually determined to be Emily's blood. He also told authorities that he remembered taking the baby to the basement, but that he blacked out after that. You see, he had been smoking and drinking the night before, and that was his excuse. Thankfully, Benjamin was convicted of all charges and sentenced to life in prison without mercy, as you can see right here. But for some people, that just wasn't enough. And like I said at the beginning of this video, a petition was created which asked the government to publicly hang Benjamin. And this petition, before it was shut down, gathered over 50,000 signatures. I mean, this truly is one of the worst things that I've ever covered here on my TikTok. And personally, I don't think that life in prison is enough for this guy. I mean, the pain that poor Emily went through before she was eventually killed is just heartbreaking on every single level. And I just hope and pray that the other prisoners that are in there with Benjamin find out or already have found out exactly what he did to land himself in there.
Hey y'all, we gotta have another conversation. Did y'all hear about the 9-year-old girl that went to go visit her dad on a visitation and the dad essays her? Let's talk about it. So as the story goes, when the girl was young, her parents divorced, which is not unusual. Many families are redefined by divorce. Dad moves on, gets remarried, mom moves on as well. So one day when the little girl was around 9 years old, she went to go visit dad on one of the visitations. She's in a room scrolling on her tablet, and dad comes in to check on her to see what she's doing and sees that the little girl is watching pee. Okay, children are not perfect. They're going to do things they're not supposed to do, especially based on their exposure, especially if they scrolling too much on the tablet. Okay, dad calls mom and say, hey, our child is doing this. We need to get this in check right away. What do you want me to do? Mom says no problem. When she comes back to the house after the visitation, I'll deal with it. Boom, mom deals with it. We're all set for a new visitation. Parents came together. They resolved the issue, right? No. Little girl goes back for a visit and she got a whole new daddy. Daddy now has lust in his eyes for this child. He started doing little things like touching her on the butt every time she walked by. The little girl is like, why? Why is he doing that? Especially after daddy just told me that what I was watching on the tablet was wrong. She do her best to ignore it, but the lust in her father's heart grows. He waits till everybody in his house go to bed, make sure everybody's asleep. He carries himself to the little girl's room and starts essaying her. The little girl is devastated. She loved her daddy so much. How could he do this to her? He didn't care. He would do this time after time. The little girl tried to behave thinking that, okay, if I just do this, my dad won't treat me this way. But there was nothing that this little girl could do to stop her father from behaving this way. One day, the little girl got her period, and she noticed right after that, after she told her parents, I guess her mom told her dad the little girl got the period because they both got to take care of the child. So what happens? Dad stops touching the little girl. Okay, Daddy. Time goes on and the little girl grows older and she has a breakdown. All she can play back in her head is everything Daddy was doing to her. So one day she gets the courage and she tells her mom, every time I went on a visit, this is what Daddy was doing to me. The mom is pissed off, rightfully so. She tell everybody to include his family. And what the family say? No, we don't believe that. We don't believe that. In fact, we remember when she was young, she was on her tablet watching that P. So see, we believe she was dreaming of this stuff and then got some things confused because of what she was into when she was a child. That's what the family said. That's what y'all think? Y'all think this child has dreamt all this up? Oh, okay. Well, let me say this. No, that child ain't dreamt that up. No, that child was a child, did something wrong, and shouldn't have been punished for the rest of her life for it. But see, the dad saw this as an end for him. See, he was already a predator in plain sight. So he saw this as an end because one thing he knew and he calculated. Now that the family knew that she did this as a child, they wasn't going to believe that child. At least he was banking on it. They wasn't going to believe her when she came out and said that this is what he was doing. And that's just what happened. She desperately wanted this her father's attention. And he rejected her after she told, and so did his family. Well, honey, I say this. Leave your father to receive his karma, as all predators will. Focus on the love of self because you did nothing wrong. You were a child. You had the right to learn right from wrong without being abused. Thank God your mother believed you. Thank God she rode with you. And may she continue to love self, teach you how to love self, and may she continue to pour her love as a mother inside of you, because there was nothing you did that deserved this.
Josephina Cunningham was just 3 years old when she was unalived by a 34-year-old man. The monstrous acts of 34-year-old Robert Fisher would have changed the lives of not only Josephina, who goes by Josie, but also her family and community. It was believed that Robert was supposed to be watching Josephina while her mother was doing whatever she was supposed to be doing. It was at that time he found some prescribed pills from the mother and he ended up giving it to the baby. All of this to kind of ensure that he can get what he wants without much of a fight back. However, it's very clear with or without pills, he can overpower her. Now, Josie's older brother said that she always wanted to be a firefighter, but unfortunately, when her mother did arrive back and finally saw that her daughter was unresponsive, she called the police. Not only did the police arrive to the scene, but so did firefighters. It's just a sad case to know that the one thing that she wanted to be showed up to her rescue when it was too late, unfortunately. Now, Robert will serve 20 years to life. I'm not quite sure how that will work out. He's also in New York, so please. Rest in peace to little Josie. But what do you all think about this story? And let me know what you think in the comment section below. And don't forget to share.
Have y'all heard about this? This is absolutely sick. This 57-year-old father is accused of drugging 3 12-year-old girls with mango smoothies. The drug that was found in all 3 of the girls' system is a benzodiazepine, which is similar to a Valium or a Xanax. The man's name is Michael Maiden, and he's from Lake Oswego in Oregon. The sleepover happened in August of last year, and the girls say that he came down with smoothies that he had made for all of them, and they could tell that there was white chunks on top and throughout. All of the girls drank the smoothies except for one. One of the girls was able to stay awake and actually sent this text to her mom saying, "Mom, please pick me up and say I had a family emergency. I don't feel safe. I might not respond, but please come get me. Please, please, please." The girls reported that he came down to the basement where they were sleeping multiple times and even placed his finger under a girl's nose to see if she was asleep. On February 26, he was officially charged, and that was 6 months after the sleepover took place. He pleaded not guilty during his arraignment last Wednesday and posted $50,000 bail. This is absolutely disgusting, and I don't even want to think about what he was planning to do when the girls fell asleep. Be careful where you're letting your children stay the night.
So I eventually got pregnant with my first child by him when I was 15. He delivered her on a construction site He purchased a house in East Orange, New
Correct,
Jersey.
I remember seeing that.
And essentially moved his family away from any of our extended family. So I no longer had contact with my grandmother, my aunts, cousins. People just didn't know where we even went. And he kept us on this construction site as he renovated the house. Over the years, I was impregnated by my father 5 times, right? 5 times. 4 of them was born. One of them I miscarried. My youngest daughter by my father, she passed away in 2010 due to inborn errors. She had different genetic disorders.
How did you get them alone?
Grooming. I would check out their family situation. I would check out their clothing to see how well they were, financially. I would check out their social interaction with other kids. When we were on the ballparks or on the gym floor, I would make sure which ones I wanted to molest. I would give them special attention, congratulate them, talk to them when I know that I would never be allowed to talk to anybody else. Aside from everybody, I would give them the attention that an official is not supposed to give anybody. And it made them feel like, wow, he's paying me attention. It is a direct form of grooming.
Were there certain characteristics that you looked for in children before molesting them?
In children, yes, but more I also looked at their families. If I thought the father was a threat, I would not approach the child. If I thought that the child had friends that he would tell, I would not approach him. If I thought the child had friends that were in the same capacity he was, I would approach him. For the simple fact that if I could molest him, I could lure him into grooming him into believing that he would enjoy it. And therefore, I could manipulate him into having his other friends come and be molested by me as well.
So perhaps a child that doesn't really have a whole lot of friends, maybe not really a strong family, things like that.
Yes, no spiritual values, weak in education, needs help in many ways, even from split parenting, has a mother who may be having problems with the family, well, here comes superhero in to help out, wow, well, thank you very much. No problem. You ever need me to take them away for the night so you can have a night out? No problem.
Hey guys, happy Sunday. I know I look a mess, but I had to hop on here so we can have this conversation. Now, did you guys hear about the girl who finally got the courage to tell her mom that her boyfriend from when she was younger was R-ing her, essaying her? And when the girl finally told her mom put hands on her. Her mom put hands on her. And then gonna tell the girl, I tried to get him arrested. Wait a minute. So wait a minute. So not only did this happen to her, you knew it happened to her, and now you mad that everybody else know it happened to her, so now you want to put hands on her? I'm confused. How did the victim now become the villain that you feel deserves for you to put your hands on her? You guys, listen. I tell it all on my blog, theconversation.info. Now, part of what I tell is how my bonus dad was the hero in my personal story. However, according to my sister, he was the villain in her story. Yep, that part right there. Now, when my sister told my mother that he was essaying her, my mother put hands on her too. and then called the police and put her in a group home. Y'all, we gonna do better, because we're gonna keep having this conversation.
I want to read one of the chats recently of some of the offenders of what they were saying. This is also filtered, so it can be a little bit more appropriate for today. One of the offenders in the chat asked what the others were into. Next man replied, he was mainly into 5 to 9-year-olds. Another said he was 60 and a very violent man, and no isn't an option for him. One of the offenders then said he has 20 terabytes of baby rape videos, and if they DM him, he would give them to him for a good price. Another offender confirmed and said he would show the others how to abuse his own kids and get away with it. Then another replied he has a daughter that he would love to share. Then the next replied, when asked if his wife knew about his abuse, the man said, heck no, it's our little secret, though I am on the lookout for others, as she is getting old now. Next responded, how old is she? The offender said, 8. That's what we're talking about here today. That's why it's so important. That's why we have to be urgent for every single one of these boys and girls.
Please stand to your feet.
22-year-old James Saltmarshall spent the majority of his arraignment moaning with his hands covering his mouth.
Count 1, felony murder, homicide.
When paramedics got to the Alpine Motel in Inkster last Thursday, Saltmarshall's 8-month-old baby girl wasn't breathing. He had been left to care for her at the motel while the child's mother was at work. Doctors at Children's Hospital detailed the injuries that killed the little girl for detectives.
They thought the child had skull fractures, brain swelling, and some other bruising.
It was the head injuries that killed her, but doctors also found extensive evidence of sexual assault. Saltmarshall, for his part, originally told police he fell asleep with his little girl in the crook of his arm and then woke up to her not breathing. Doctors say, no way is that what happened.
That you did knowingly or intentionally cause serious physical harm to a child. That's a felony punishable by up to life in prison.
Heartbreaking new details have been released about Heaven, this 7-year-old beautiful little girl from Ethiopia who was brutally essayed and murdered by a man that she trusted, and a man that will likely get away with it unless we do something. For those of you who are new, Heaven grew up with a single mom who had a job as a nurse, and when she went to work, she would often drop Heaven and her sister off at the house of a woman she was very close to play with their kids. This man was that woman's husband and also Heaven's mother's landlord. And on this particular day, he was left alone with the kids and Heaven and her sister because his wife had an appointment. He then separated Heaven from the other kids, brutally essayed her, and poured sand down her mouth so she would stop screaming. By the time he was done, her entire womb was damaged and her backbone was cracked to the point where you could see it sticking out of her skin. He then unalived her by strangling her, washed the blood off her body, bathed her in bleach, dressed her back up, and threw her outside to make it look like she fell. And to make his story more believable, he took a razor blade and made cuts into her body. His older daughter helped clean up, his younger daughter ran to his aunt's house to tell her that Heaven fell even though it was a lie. And his wife, who was apparently so close to Heaven's mother, is completely defending him and beating up anyone who questions his innocence. But Heaven's mother knew something was wrong right when she saw her. I mean, she's a literal nurse and that's her daughter, so she immediately called authorities, but almost all of them refused to help until one that did, but she was immediately told that she would lose her job if she continued. Initially, the man spent 3 days in jail, but then the case was closed and he was let out, and he immediately threatened Heaven's mother and even sent people after her to kill her to the point where they had to relocate. They then reopened the case and sentenced him to 25 years, but no, he will likely get parole or get the entire thing appealed. This is because his brother is affiliated with police and he has connections outside that can and will hurt Heaven's mother if she pursues a case against him. It's also been alleged that that man had feelings for Heaven's mother, but those feelings were not reciprocated and he did this as a revenge plot. We need to protect Heaven's mother, be a voice for her and Heaven, question the Ethiopian government, sign this petition, not stop saying her name and fighting for her justice.
This daycare owner shot her husband twice after she found this out. Shantiri Weems and her husband James owned this daycare called Kids Castle. On July 2022, a woman whose child was attending Kids Castle approached Shantiri and told her that her daughter was being molested by James. Shantiri lost it, and in that moment, she made her way to a hotel in Washington, D.C. where James was staying at and shot him in the neck and thigh. Shantiri admits that her intentions were to paralyze James because she was just so angry. Keep in mind, Shantiri loved kids and her job, and she wanted this daycare to be something where kids felt like they were safe. And she said after seeing the pain in this mother's face, she snapped. James had contact with 93 children, and most of them rode on the daycare bus with him, which is where most of the abuse happened. And this story only gets more disturbing. James was also a retired Baltimore police officer. But ultimately, Shantiri was sentenced to 4 years in prison, and the judge said that she should have never taken the law into her own hands. James, on the other hand, faces 30 counts of child sexual abuse and assault charges.
So there's a young lady on TikTok, and she's telling her story, and her story goes like, you know, when she was younger, her relative, she had some brothers, and she was the only girl. So one of her cousins came to live with her mother and father, both, you know, churchgoers and so on. So she said that, you know, their cousin come over and so on, she and her little sister. She said the cousin sent the sister and her small younger brother downstairs to play, and then he took her in the room and then he essayed her. And the thing is, you know, the mom came home and the mom asked her, she said that, "Did anybody do anything to you?" And she said yes to the mom. So y'all, then the mom went on to say, excuse me, the mom went on to say, asking the other brothers that was not there, that didn't see anything, "Did y'all see her do anything to anyone?" And they all said no, because she said that they didn't see. So on top of this, when she said that, the mother told her to go upstairs and take off her bottom part of her, you know, her trousers and whatever. And after she did so, she said she thinking that her mother gonna be taking her to the doctor or search her or whatever. She said that her mother came up there with an extension cord, and the mother was just like beating on her, whipping on her. And she's like, the mom did that. And not only that, you know, when I think about mother like that, there are so much mother out here that causes people to essay you and to abuse you. They cause people to do things to you because they don't believe you when you tell them that something happened. So you don't get a chance to get justice, because your own mother, who's supposed to be who you're supposed to look up to, who's supposed to believe you, who's supposed to believe in you, when you share something so serious. Do you know how many mother out there that their boyfriend and their husband and all these people do stuff to their own daughter and they don't believe? Do you know how many mother out there who now can't even get to have a relationship with their daughter or their granddaughter, all because they choose to not believe their own child when the daughter tells them that something is happening to them, that there are things going on around them, and people that are essaying or try to, you know, read between the line what I'm trying to say, and the mother decided that they're not going to believe. Do you know how much mother believe their boyfriend have with their daughter? Do you know how many people out there do that? I've heard horror stories after stories where a mother out here are choosing to believe. Why can't you guys believe your daughter? Do you know how you would save your daughter if you believe them? Why would a child came up to you and lie to you? First of all, we all know that children are innocent. They don't make up stories. Of course, sometimes you can tell, you know, children sometimes, but when something so serious as this, I do not believe that a child will come with something so graphic, detailed, telling you that. And as a mother, you should look into the whole thing. And why is it that some mother chooses not to believe their own child when they're telling them, "Hey mom, so and so do X, Y, and Z to me"? Why does some mother believe that? Why can't you take the extra steps and say, okay, if you don't believe, why can't you take your child to the hospital? Why can't you just take him to the hospital, get the doctor results, and then you can determine from there on if you think the child is not telling the truth? Why isn't it like that? Why is some mother turning to be blind eyes, turning away, not listening, not doing, and people get to come over and do whatever they want with their own child? Why is that happening more and more frequently? Why? If you're a mother and you have your child, let me tell you something. I have 2 daughters, and I was like god dogs. Before my daughter, they became young adult, I was like god dogs. Like nobody gets through my daughter, okay? Nobody gets through me to get to my daughter, because when I was younger, that happened to me. So there's no chance that the same thing would happen to my daughters, because I am here to protect my two daughters. And let me tell you something, they didn't go to sleepover. No friend didn't come over for too long. They go outside and play, and they can't go inside a friend's house. They can't go in a neighbor house. Like, I was so strict on certain things because I'm a mother. Like, my child is not going to come to me and tell me that you do anything, because let me tell you something, I'm Jamaican and I'm crazy. So I do not want to make sure that I stay on this earth here. I've never gone to jail a day in my life, and I want to make sure that I do not go to jail. So guess what? I'm gonna make sure my children are safe. And if I don't know you, and I don't know you, and I don't know what you're capable of doing, I don't know what y'all doing when the doors close, but I do know what happened in my house when the doors close. So I will remain with my children in my house, and they're not gonna come over to do any kind of playing with you or doing a sleepover with you. My children know it. They ask me tons of time. They cry boo-hoo plenty of time. But at the end of the day, I said, no. They will not be in a sleepover. And to this day, my daughter, they came back and thanked me. They came back and thanked me because of all the things that their friend, dad, and grandpa was saying to them when they're there talking to them. So just imagine had it been sleepover, okay? I don't play those games. Because do y'all remember the guy who's just recently, he's like a big shot guy, and the children were sleeping over his house, and he gave every last one of them something. And one of the when the parents come to the door, and when the parents come to the door, that's when he's like, oh, the child is sleeping. This whole time, he gave them all something. He mixed up something, blended something, and gave every last one of them something. Who's to say what he was going to do? But parents stepped in. One of the child was smart enough to call their parents, and they come and pick up all the children. Y'all, it's not a joke out here with these people. People are sick, and we got to be careful.
Story time on how I found out my dad was molesting my 4-year-old daughter. I'm not doing these for attention, for clout, for none of that. If I can tell my story and help somebody else, that's what I'm going to do. First thing I want to say is pay attention to your kids. Your girls, your boys, pay attention. It was the smallest thing that brought everything to light. Something that I could have absolutely overlooked, and I did not. Because I pay attention to my child. I look at everything. I pay attention to everything when it comes to her. I be paranoid, and it comes from my own childhood trauma. But anyways, so my dad lived about 2 hours from us. I had just finished school, and I was about to start my extern. My husband worked during the day, and I needed somebody to watch my daughter while I did my extern because she wasn't in school at the time. So my husband drove 2 hours, picked my dad up, brought my dad back to our house. So I started my extern. Everything was going good. Mind y'all, I ain't never told nobody this, but I was already paranoid. Like, it was something. I was paranoid that whole week. It was like little small stuff that was being done that kind of had me uneasy. But okay, so the first thing was one day my husband was about to drop me off at my extern. It was like 8 in the morning. My daughter was in our room because my dad was in her room. So my baby was in the bed asleep. My husband and I, we were leaving the house, and we were outside, I want to say maybe 30 to 45 seconds, because my husband, when we got in the car, he realized that he left something. And he got up to go in the house, and when he got to our bedroom door, my dad was at the door. Mind you, my baby is in there asleep. It's like 8 in the morning. Before we left out the house, we told him that she was sleeping. That was weird to me, but then again, you couldn't tell him nothing about his grandchild. He loved his grandchild. I was thinking, like, maybe she was whining or something and he went to check on her, but my husband was like, she's asleep. Okay. So another time, it was like my second or third day of my extern. my baby was playing in there with him. And she came out and she was just standing in the living room. And I could see his shadow in the hallway, like with his hand, he was like beckoning her to come back to where he was, but he would never say it out loud, which was weird because if you just call her name, but it was like he was silently beckoning her, like he didn't want us to hear or see that he was calling her in the back where he was. Okay. After that, I don't know, I think it was, I wasn't even a week into my ex time when we found this out. Like, okay, he was doing little weird stuff, just weird stuff. And mind y'all, like I said, I lived with my dad my whole life. He got a bunch of nieces, a bunch of granddaughters. Everybody loved him, man. Ain't nobody ever said nothing out the way about him. No rumors. He ain't never did nothing to nobody. Like, he was just a host of fun. Everybody loved him. Like, that's why I'm shocked and hurt, like, to this day. Like, it still bothers me every day. But anyways, so one day, my baby, she came in there, like, she was still, like, at night, she had, like, she was, at the time, still, like, with the bed. So, she had on a pull-up because it was nighttime and she was getting ready to go to bed. So, she lay out on the couch and she put her hand in her pull-up. So, red flag, flag on the play, I don't play that. Why your hands in your pull-up? But of course, I was like, babe, why you got your hand right there? Like, what's wrong? Where you get that from? Somebody did that to you? I'm asking questions. She was like, yes. So, I already know. When you questioning a child, you do not say a name. Like, you don't say nobody's name. Because, you know, that child can just go with whatever you're saying. So, I'm just like, somebody did that to you? I didn't say no name. Mind you, the only men in our house is my husband and my dad. And it could have been a woman. I got a bunch of cousins, whatever. It could have been a woman. So, my husband, my dad, and sometimes my brother come around. But, yeah, at the time, it was just us three in the house. So, I'm like, somebody did that to you? And she's like, yeah. So, I don't want to say her name. So, I'm like, okay, baby, who did that? She was like, Pawpaw. That's what she called my dad. I'm like, Pawpaw, you know, I'm trying to get some clarity. Pawpaw changed you? Pawpaw, what, wiped you? Took you a bath? I can't say exactly what it was that she did. She showed me what he did. And she also said something that he did. And my heart just dropped. Like, dropped. I was crying so bad. I told my husband and my dad got into an altercation. And yeah, I called my auntie. My auntie lived down the street from me, and I told her. And she was like, oh, I just don't believe he did that. I don't believe, mind you, this my auntie on my mama's side. She was like, I don't believe he did that. Wait, I gotta do it.
Stop leaving your kids with them. Stop leaving your children with boyfriends that you barely know. Stop letting your family members you don't entirely trust watch them because it's free. If you have a gut feeling about someone that doesn't sit right with you when it comes to your child, cut all ties with this person immediately. If your little one comes to you and says, I don't want to be with this particular person, I don't want to hang out with them, do me a favor and listen to them.
All right, y'all, I'm back and I got another one. So this man you see in the picture is Austin Stevens, and this is his daughter, Zara Scruggs. On October 3rd, 2020, he was giving his daughter a bath, you know, like any normal parent would do. After he gave his daughter a bath, he went into the kitchen to go get a drink, and once he heard a thud, he heard his daughter crying. And after he calmed her down, her head tilted and she was unresponsive. He then proceeds to go on his phone and go on Google and searches, what if you don't hear a baby heartbeat, my baby isn't breathing, and how do you know if your baby is dead? And after he'd done that, that's when he decides to call 911. She was then transported to the Einstein Medical Center in Montgomery County, where she was pronounced dead. The autopsy revealed that she was a victim of sexual assault. She had rectal trauma and blow force trauma to the head, what killed her.
It started at about the age of 1. When I was the punisher, I was the one who decided punishment over the children. I was the one who spanked the children. I was the one who punished the children. I would tell myself, well, she's not going to be like that. She is going to be the perfect mate. And I told myself that. And I didn't molest her then.
The perfect mate.
The perfect mate. I was grooming her to fit me. Then when I molested her at 18 months old. And I thought to myself, I said, well, this is going to be easy. And I'm telling myself these things. It's not blood related to me. When she grows up to be 14, 15 years old, I will have the perfect sexual mate for sexual purposes. Anything else didn't matter. It was sex. That was it. I didn't care about, really, honestly, I didn't love the child. I wanted the child for my own purposes, you know, and treating them like a person, but they were just objects. The best way to fool people is to help them, is to ask what they want, ask what they need. Do they need any help doing anything? Do they need any money, or do they need their car fixed? Do they need the grass cut? Do they need their children looked out for? Do they need anything to get them to think that I am a decent person and want to help? Trust me, I will help. And that was manipulation all the way.
New 3-year-old Bella Edwards says she was precious and adored by anyone who met her. But on Monday afternoon, police say her mother's fiance, Mark Jenkins, an ex-con who served 6 years for attempted murder, viciously beat her to death.
This little girl was hit about the abdomen. We believe she bled to death.
The medical examiner says Bella died from blunt force trauma to her abdomen. Police sources say she had extensive signs of abuse, including sex abuse, and both fresh and healing bruising. Bella and her 3-month-old brother were in Jenkins' care for 8 hours Monday. Police say surveillance video from the Seaside Queens apartment building where they lived shows Jenkins took the children for a car ride that afternoon. When they returned 2 hours later, it was clear Bella was not okay.
When we saw the child coming into the building at 4:30, she appeared to be in some kind of distress.
When Jenkins made his first court appearance this afternoon, prosecutors said, quote, "It's hard to imagine a more violent and horrifying scenario." Bella's family members in the courtroom yelled, "You're a monster. Feed him to the wolves." They fled the courthouse in tears.
We miss her. That's it. We just miss her.
While Bella's family had no prior history with the Administration for Children's Services, police say in the last year they were called twice to the home for nonviolent arguments between Bella's mother, Shamika Gonzalez, and Mark Jenkins. Police say Gonzalez is in shock.
She was very surprised when this happened. You can understand her feelings right now. She's obviously in a state of distress.
Now, according to the criminal complaint, Jenkins and Bella's mother were arguing by text about money and other issues on the day that Bella was killed. Jenkins is now being held without bail and is on suicide watch. In the meantime, at this hour, Bella's family, friends, and community are gathered outside her apartment building in the Rockaways, holding a vigil in her memory. We're live in Kew Gardens, Queens tonight. Hazel Sanchez, CBS 2 News.
Let her go! What are you doing with her?
Bro, this is my sister, bro. Move.
What are you doing with her?
Bro, this is man's family, bro. Move. He's not. This man's family. Move from me, bro.
Is that the same one that just walked past us, Mum?
Man's family, bro. Move from me.
So what are you doing in the corner with her? Are you okay? Hey, girl. Hey. Hey. I'm following you.
Look, why are you fucking stalking man, bro?
Are you okay? Do you know him?
Okay, so as horrific as a lot of that was, we still have women out here acting like they don't know that these things are happening to children worldwide as often as they're happening. And before anybody says women do these things to boys too, to little boys too, I didn't say women don't do these things to little boys. I know there are some demonic women out there just as well as there are a lot of demonic men. But according to stats, this is happening way more often to girls and women. So that's why this video is about girls and women. So if you want to do one about what women are doing to little boys, I encourage you to go do a video on your own channel. Yeah, I don't have any little girls, so this is not a problem that I'm really concerned about. My oldest son, he never really spent the night over anybody's house. My youngest son, he wants to occasionally, and occasionally we let him, but the house that we let him stay over is a woman that has boys, so I don't worry about a man doing anything to him, but I don't let him do it often. Yeah, this was a lot. This is pretty much all I had, and like I said, I posted this video before, not the same exact one, and I had to delete it. So ladies, as soon as you hear this video, please share this video, because there are a lot of women out there that are still clueless and are still bringing strange men to their homes instead of just going out and not showing them where they live. Like, I don't care if women go out and meet strange men and want to be dumb on their own, but if you have kids, you can't afford to be dumb. You can't afford to bring people around your kids. If you want to be dumb for dick, go ahead and be dumb for dick, but don't bring men around your kids. And I know a lot of women still want to get married thinking that these men are going to be taking care of them and their kids, and they want to have another baby and be stay-at-home wives. That's a fairy tale. It's not, it doesn't happen like that most of the time. Most of the time, you'll end up on TikTok crying about being a married single mom and he's not helping, and I can't stay home with my kids. Talk to most women who have kids. It's very hard to stay home with your kids and be a stay-at-home mom when a man doesn't make enough money, especially in this bad economy. It's getting worse. So it's like not possible for too many people to stay at home unless you're just rich. And I don't mean 100K, 200K a year rich, not hood rich. I'm talking about rich. But yeah, ladies, get down in the comments and tell me if you or anyone you've known. I've known 3 women who have went through SA, 2 as kids and 1 during marriage in my personal life. So in the black community, the stats are even worse. I think it says something like most or over 70 or 80% of black girls are SA'd in some kind of way before they reach the age of 18. I don't know what it is in other communities, but it's really, really high in the black community. And I'm sure it's probably not too much lower in other communities. I just don't look into their stats as much unless I'm doing like a specific video on it. But like this one, but I didn't look into the stats for the white community, but I know the ones for this community or this supposed community. So ladies, get down in the comments and let me know your experiences, and I will see you ladies later. Bye.